So we got a new MCU Disney Plus show, and because I am 1 week late, I have 3 episodes to binge watch instead of just 2. So the episode opens with a young Kate Bishop in the year 2012 when the first Avengers movie took place. And during this time, the Avengers are fighting off Loki and the Chitauri, or whatever they were called, I can't remember. But just before that happens, we see a young Kate Bishop, and the dialogue during the scene with Kate and her father, it is very much whimsical Disney dialogue. She then has a scene with her mother, and then the battle with the Avengers happens, and I really like the way they showed this scene from young Kate Bishop's perspective, although her parents suddenly disappearing during the battle was odd. And by the way, the effects looked really cheap here, like the cheapest out of all the MCU shows. That being said though, I really liked this scene, and I would actually go as far as to say that this is the best opening to any of the MCU shows so far. And she just so happens to see Hawkeye, and it has an impact on her going forward. And yeah, she loses her father in the battle, and we see her and her mother grieving at the funeral. I gotta say, with both Civil War and now Hawkeye, it is nice to see the consequences of the Avengers battles. And the rest of the episode sets up a more grown-up Kate Bishop. And I like how she's not all perfect and actually misses her first hit with the arrow, and she even screws up after that as well. I gotta say though, the green screen looks really bad in this show, and you can tell when they are using a green screen and when they are using practical sets, and not surprisingly, the practical sets and real locations look so much better. Then we finally get to see Hawkeye, and I was really happy to see him again, and having them watch the Broadway play to the Avengers, that was amusing, and my reaction to this whole play was exactly the same as Hawkeye's. And I like when the actress playing Black Widow shows up, the trauma of the Avengers really sets in for Hawkeye, and he even had a hearing aid which he turned off during the play, which was actually funny. It's the more subtle jokes that I really like, and there was even a cute moment when a kid in the audience waves at him. And I really like how this scene was not just played up as a joke and was actually used as a bit of drama for Hawkeye, and shows that he's been mentally affected in a big way. And then they gave him an awkward encounter in the bathroom, and I thought this joke would be where the show gets really goofy, and it was, but Jeremy Renner's down-to-earth and non-over-the-top reaction to the guy made the scene actually funny. I gotta say though, the dialogue strikes me as a bit weird. When Hawkeye's daughter has a little chat with him outside the theatre, the writing for the dialogue sounds a bit off and unusual. And I must admit, when they are not using bad green screen, I really like the cinematography and the colour tones from the Christmas setting. It's very simple yet effective, and I would say this is the best looking of the MCU shows so far. And I gotta say, I really liked watching Hawkeye spending time with his family. Kate Bishop, on the other hand, watching her family interactions aren't bad, but it feels very generic. I have seen all these tropes before, and I could personally do without the drama with her mother engaged to what looks like the villain. I mean, look at him, that mustache is just begging to be twirled. And later on he tries to suspiciously bid on Hawkeye's Ronin sword, which he used in Endgame when he was going on a killing spree. And then we see the Ronin suit is on sale too. And I like the scene in the restaurant where Hawkeye gets free food from the guy because he saved the world. That's much better than the free food joke in Homecoming where they made a joke about the guy fancying Aunt May. Oh, and the auction gets robbed and Kate Bishop puts on the Ronin suit and fights off the bad guys. We cut back to Hawkeye with his kids and he sees a news report that Ronin is back, which for him, of course, reminds him of a very dark past that he led. And it turns out that the mother of all conveniences happen, as a gang that apparently have a grudge on Ronin show up thinking Kate Bishop is him, and then Hawkeye shows up at the last minute to save her. And then the episode ends. Oh, and the old man at the party dies. So yeah, most of the episode was just showing Hawkeye with his family and Kate Bishop with hers. And this episode is much more of a setup for Kate Bishop than it is for Hawkeye, which is an odd balancing act choice considering that the show is called Hawkeye. But the stuff we did get of Hawkeye was my favourite parts of the whole episode, and it wasn't treated as a goofy MCU thing, which is what I thought it would be. So yeah, I was happy with this episode, and I would happily give it a 7 out of 10. And I am looking forward to seeing the second episode, which will hopefully be focused a lot more on Hawkeye, and if they can keep the level of humor to a comfortable level like they did in this episode, then I will be really happy. So the episode continues right from where the previous episode leaves off, and you can see that Kate Bishop is starstruck that she's seen Hawkeye, and Hawkeye says he is going to take her someplace safe. I gotta say, I wonder what his kids are doing right now. And from a filming standpoint, I like how through this head slam, Hawkeye shows, without any words, that he would prefer that this is not happening. And I really like how jokes and goofiness are flying around all over the place, and Hawkeye is acting very dry about it. So Kate Bishop makes another mistake and leads the tracksuit mafia to their location, and a pretty decent fight ensues. use, although again, the effects are not good. So they leave without getting the suit due to the fire, and again, I really like how dry the humor is with Hawkeye. It makes it seem less goofy and more real. And Kate Bishop is being less goofy than she is a fangirl who is both impressed and unimpressed with her favorite celebrity. Anyway, Hawkeye tries to get the Ronin costume back, but it's not there. He comes back and he has a nice and even humorous conversation with Kate, and he even teaches her how to properly heal up an injury as she didn't do it right on her own. Hawkeye comes back and has his kids go to the airport, and I like the little detail where he says, "Don't forget Nate."
The important things, remember these 3 words, don't lose Nate.
Well, where's Nate?
Where's Nate? Guys, get in the car, please. Nate, come on, buddy.
If any of you have a youngest brother, that is something that the parents usually say to you when you have to look after your little sibling. And I even care when the kids are disappointed that Clint is not coming back home for Christmas, and his daughter is suspicious that something is wrong because of the injury on his head. And then he goes back to Kate and they find out that she screwed up again and made Ronan seem like even more of a criminal. Again, even a scene where Hawkeye and Kate are walking through the street, it had a lot of nice moments and even another funny joke. And I like how the jokes in this show are not going for the big laughs. Most of them are just jokes that make you smile, and that's enough. And this is the first non-Russo brothers directed movie to make me really enjoy the humor. And Hawkeye drops Kate off to her mother's place and he gives her his number in case of emergencies only, and they both go their separate ways, until we know they are inevitably going to team up again. And then we get another conversation with Kate and her mother and soon-to-be stepfather, and the conversation started out fine when she was being asked where she was, then it got to their family issues, and I can go with it, but it's not the most interesting thing again. Meanwhile, Hawkeye tracks down his suit to this costume do, and he needs to participate in order to get in and ask the thief for his Ronin suit. And even the more goofy music and goofy scene here was actually pretty funny. Again, it is down to Hawkeye's dry reaction to what's going on, and even watching him easily get past these people put a smile on my face, mainly because he isn't even trying and he's knocking these people down left and right with real sword combat as he makes his way to the thief. And this is the first joke that made me laugh.
So you got 2 choices, you understand? I could take this pretend sword and you pretend to die, and I take that suit. Or I'm gonna real punch you, and you're gonna real fall down, and I'm gonna take that suit.
Again, it is his dry delivery that really makes it, and he's not acting all goofy, you know, like this scene from No Way Home.
Scooby-Doo this crap.
So he loses the game on purpose and he gets the Ronin suit back, and he sees the guy off, and it was a very nice moment. Really it was, and it was more genuine. It wasn't shoehorning more forced humor in, and it just let you really enjoy the pleasantries of the moment. Really, Marvel have to do more of this. This is the kind of stuff that I really like. And then he has another nice conversation with his family and says that he's gonna come back later than expected because he still has some work to do. And he's very open with his wife about what work he has to do. He's not trying to cover it up or hide it, so yeah. That's another trope and some comedy that they avoided, and they treated this scene seriously. Then we cut back to Kate, and she openly says how suspicious she is. And then they have a fencing match, and we find out that he's actually very good at fencing and not as bad as he was letting on, adding to Kate's suspicion. Yeah, this feels very textbook analyst. And then her and her mother have a generic "how could you" conversation, and then she half apologizes. And then he offers her a butterscotch sweet, which she saw at the bad guy's place earlier. They can't be making this plot line as obvious as it looks. I will be very shocked if they don't do some kind of surprise twist later, because right now, this is all so predictable and cliche. Whatever, we then get back to Hawkeye, and he's clearly wanting to get caught by the tracksuit mafia so he can talk to their boss, and he gets taken in. And then Kate tries to call him and tell him about her suspicion, and then she finds out that he is in trouble. And then she drops by to help him out. We'll talk about that in a second though, but before that happens, Hawkeye has a badass moment where he gets his cuffs off. Yeah, it's a cliche, but I really like whenever a character does that. And the look on his face when she drops in right after he told the mafia that he doesn't know Kate Bishop was downright hilarious. Jeremy Renner does such a great job at having these stone-cold expressions that even when there is a slight change in his face, it speaks volumes of his disappointment. And yeah, this scene was so great, even though in the trailers it looked like it was gonna be so bad. So yeah, they tie the two up. Kate Bishop has screwed up again, which is really good to see as it makes her character come off as human and not Ray. And the episode ends with us seeing the boss, which is clearly Echo, who has been announced to get her own Disney Plus series with some of the Netflix Daredevil cast members in there. I hope she is set up well, but doesn't take the spotlight off of Hawkeye. I want this 6-episode show to be really focused and not to meander like the other MCU Disney Plus shows have. So yeah, this was another good episode. Hawkeye is actually a really engaging character in his downtime, something I didn't think would be possible with his character, but so far I'm enjoying these 2 episodes far more than I have any of the other Disney Plus Marvel shows, or even their movies for that matter. So yeah, this episode also gets a 7 out of 10. And because I am watching this show late, I am going to go straight to episode 3. Alright, so the episode opens with Echo and what her life was like when she was a kid. Yeah, so enough of that. We then continue right from where the last Hawkeye episode left. Okay, I'm sorry guys. It's just these heart-to-heart moments that the parents have with their kids and how special their kids are. It's starting to feel exactly the same. I just watched Shang-Chi recently and they did the exact same thing with his backstory as a child. And little Kate Bishop also got a conversation like that with her father and her mother in episode 1. So seeing this again, I was completely numb to it and I didn't care. The only part of her backstory that made sense being there was when Hawkeye as Ronin came in and killed her people and her father. I can only assume that they must have been bad people if Clint killed them. But yeah, we then thankfully go back to the actual episode, and these thugs really are goofy. I know they're kind of goofy in the comics too, but you want them to have some kind of dignity to them. I mean seriously, who the hell would hire idiots like these? For being a street level series, the criminals need to be on a similar level to what they were in the Netflix shows, and I expected them to go a little more Disney, but not this Disney. Anyway, Echo shows up. There was another joke about Hawkeye's hearing aid regarding Kate Bishop, and again, that was a funny joke. She asks him where Ronin is, and he says that Black Widow killed him, which I knew he was going to say by the way, and that was a very smart answer. And they start questioning Kate, and she gets scared. And I like how Clint gives her some reassuring advice to calm her down, and then reassures her that they are both gonna get out of here. And then a fun action scene ensues with Hawkeye having some really cool moments. And then they have a car chase, which is fun, but a bit too goofy with the Christmas music playing. Also, this scene has one or two very copy and paste set pieces from the car chase scene in Black Widow, only, wait for it, this one is so much better. It's not the greatest car chase in the world, not even close, but it's certainly one of the best car chases that I have seen in the MCU for a very long time. But really, it's the music that gets way too goofy, and it really got rid of the tension for this scene. That is until the Pym arrow came. Freaking genius. Hawkeye really is full of surprises with his arrows in this show. It makes his action scenes a lot more fun than they usually are. So this was a decent action scene, but the goofy tone and Christmas music really did hurt some of it for me. And Haley Steinfeld's stunt double was very obvious in some shots, so they could have done a better job at hiding that. Their final getaway though, I can buy Hawkeye getting away, but I can't buy her getting away since she is such a newbie. But whatever, the show has done so much good stuff so far that I will give it a pass. There was also a really sweet but alarming scene where his youngest son calls him, but because Hawkeye doesn't have his hearing aid, he can't hear. So Kate writes everything down for him that his son says, and again, this was a sweet moment. And it was an emotional moment for Clint because he realizes that his son says it's okay if he doesn't come back home for Christmas, which basically tells him that his youngest son is getting used to him not being at home. And the look on Hawkeye's face, this was sad, but at the same time, it was another nice moment as both we and Kate see another side of vulnerability to Hawkeye, and it was a very nice bonding moment for us the audience as well as the characters. And there is no dumb Marvel joke to interrupt this moment. I gotta say, I'm really respecting this show for that. Really, that can't be highlighted enough. Well freaking done. Echo is also talking about her uncle, and a lot of people's guess is that her uncle will be the Netflix Kingpin from Daredevil. And all this time, I feared what the MCU would do and how they would turn Kingpin into a joke, but this show has given me some confidence, which I never thought would happen. So I'm still very cautious, but I'm more open to the idea, even though I don't think even this show will be smart enough to show him as the intelligent and scary coordinator that he is in the Netflix series. So Hawkeye gets his hearing aid fixed, and then both he and Kate have a nice talk in a diner, and then they talk about his costume and branding, and she draws him his original costume from the comics, to which his response is,
Wow, not happening.
And it was at this point that I just realized that Kate doesn't know that Hawkeye was Ronin and all the violent things he's done, and you can see that is on his mind. And when she's gushing over him, he says that he's not a hero or a role model, and then she says that he is because he left his family to protect her for her own screw-ups. So again, that was a really nice scene. So they sneak into her mother's penthouse so they can get some compromising information. Whilst they're there, they get caught, and the episode ends. And damn it, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want to see more. I don't want the episode to end. So, wow, yeah. That was 3 episodes of Hawkeye that I binge watched, and I had a really good time. The story and the writing is very simple, and I understand the motivation of the 2 main characters, and the episodes have a lot of sentimental and little emotional moments scattered through the show, and the humor is 95% of the time on point. And the action, which started out as a copy and paste of Black Widow's car chase scene, ended up being the best car chase I've seen in the MCU for a very long time. And the Christmas feeling of the show really does add to not only the atmosphere, but it also gives Hawkeye a motivation to to get back home with his family in time for Christmas. And it even gives him some additional development whenever he promises his family that he will be home soon. So yeah, this was a great episode, and I didn't want it to stop. And it gets a very good 8 out of 10. So yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I am actually kind of bummed that I don't have another episode of Hawkeye to watch right now. And I am also bummed that I have to go back to watching 1 a week as opposed to the 3 in a row that I just saw. So yeah, I think it's become very apparent that this is my favorite of the MCU shows so far. To be honest, I could already tell that this was my favorite of the MCU shows during parts of episode 1, but especially episode 2. And also, it was in episode 3 where I feel like I am also growing to Kate Bishop's character. The two make a surprisingly good team. And I think, again, the reason for that is that it doesn't just have them comedically bicker with each other throughout the whole thing. The show actually gives the two characters genuine moments of development and emotion, and it massively benefits the show and their relationship, whilst maintaining that MCU humor that a lot of people like, but not exaggerating it like in practically every other MCU movie, to the point that even I am liking it. And there were other jokes in this episode too that I didn't even tell you about, but I really liked. The majority of them are not laugh out loud funny, but they were nice. They were very nice. And you know what? I'm just gonna call it right now. I bet the mother is the one who killed the old man and is really the one that has a bigger role in all of this. So yeah, Merry Christmas indeed. I found an MCU project that I actually like. And who would have thought it'd be Hawkeye? It's really good. So, a happy Christmas it is, and I'm not cringing during it, which is what I thought I would be doing with this show.